Welcome to our summer summit. We're going to have almost 2 weeks of exciting expos for each vertical: retail, media, supply chain, sustainability, and many more. I am also happy to report to you that we have been expanding quite a bit in US. We expanded in Fargo and Topeka for ag tech and for animal health. We are launching the Chicago office with the food vertical and financial services vertical, as well as in Toronto. We are launching smart city and supply chain, and upcoming offices will be most likely Miami before September this year, and Los Angeles and Southern California. Again, I know that when you used to come to California for the summit, I would invite you to my house in the backyard for some entertainment and getting to know each other better. And we cannot do that in real life, but I would love to connect with you guys one-on-one and with our team so we can keep the momentum going. And then as a final word, we have had a incredible success in China. uh, Plug and play will grow more than 50%. In Japan, I believe plug and play will grow more than 30%. And in Europe, Middle East, Africa, also our target is 30%. And coming back to US and to Silicon Valley, we feel as everything opens up and you can come and visit us more often, we could keep the momentum going in US as well. I hope you enjoyed the summit. We have about 100 startups in different verticals that you will hear their pitch. Let us make their journey a great success as well. Thank you.
Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from, and welcome to the first day of the Plug and Play Spring Summit. My name is Shanal Mirab, and I will be the MC for the Supply Chain Expo this morning. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that when you watch the event today, please do so in full screen in order to participate in exit polls and chats. With that, please be sure to vote yes or no on our polls so we know if you'd like to be connected with our startup presenters. Perfect. So yeah, we'll have an amazing day on deck for you guys, starting with some opening remarks from Plug and Play, followed by a keynote presentation from Jamie McCurry of the Georgia Ports Authority. After that, we're going to dive into our first group of startup pitches and announce some startup and corporate awards. Following this, we have our second group of startup pitches and we'll close with our guest speaker from Unilever. Closing remarks from Plug and Play and some networking as well. For now, I'll stop talking and welcome Mike Zayans to the virtual stage for some opening remarks on Plug and Play.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining the Summit Expo today. It's an honor to make it to batch 8 of the supply chain program. I remember back in 2017 launching the supply chain program just as an idea when I told our founder, who you just heard from, Saeed Amidi, that one vertical that was missing that had a great opportunity for innovation was in supply chain and logistics technology. And definitely we've realized over COVID that that is correct. You can see here that this is where Plug and Play was initially started. We actually had this office space called the Lucky Building in Palo Alto, where Google grew from 2 employees to 50. The founder of Logitech moved into that building, later on IPOing, And then our founder, Saeed, made the realization that these startups are not just the best for collecting rent from, but they actually have amazing, fast-growing businesses. So we started investing in more and more companies. You can see PayPal and Danger being two of Plug and Play's first investments. Obviously, when PayPal, we put in about 100K into PayPal instead of collecting rent initially as one of their first investors. And when they're acquired by eBay for about 1.5 billion, Plug and Play, Saeed, all of our company realized this is an enormous opportunity to invest in more and more startups. The last company I'll talk about here is Danger. So this was in the Lucky Building where Andy Rubin first moved in, and he built the software for the T-Mobile Sidekick phone. We have actually invested about 400K into that company, and then they were acquired years later by Microsoft for about 500 million. But then Andy Rubin went on to build Android. And then as he built Android, he got connected to Google, which is why essentially Plug and Play built this vision where we want to connect the world's best startups, corporations, and over the whole overall ecosystem to enable these startups to grow. This is where Plug and Play is today. We run accelerator programs where today you'll be hearing from the supply chain and logistics program in Silicon Valley. And then we also have a corporate innovation program where today we partnered with about 500 Fortune 500 type companies. Most of the largest corporations, most innovative companies in the world are partnering with us to connect with startups. And then we also have, as our third pillar of our business today, is our venture capital arm. So we invest in about 250 investments a year over the last few years. We co-invest with the top VC firms in the world like Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, et cetera. And essentially, we do everything we can to enable these startups to grow. You can see here, these are the supply chain and logistics offices that we work as a global network to connect each other and collaborate with. So we're very proud of our offices, especially in Silicon Valley, Northwest Arkansas, Toronto, Hamburg. The ones in blue are offices that are looking at different subjects for Plug and Play, be it like fintech or in healthcare or any of the other verticals you might want to look at for Plug and Play. These are where our partners are working with us from. So we have a lot of partners in those different offices. We have a very collaborative approach when it comes to bringing this global supply chain and logistics network together, which we're very passionate and proud of, because we know that corporations want to work with startups all over the world, and that startups also want to gain customers, pilots, and traction with other large players all over the world as well. So overall, I'm very proud of this. We're going to be hearing later from the Port of Savannah. We're very optimistic that Savannah will be our next location to have an East Coast presence with one of the largest ports in America, which we're very proud of. And then you can see here a few of the newest partners that we are excited to announce this batch are Coles, one of the largest retailers in America. And then also Growmark, a major agricultural company that has been very excited to innovate with us as of recently, and also with our Fargo program in North Dakota. And then Scale AI, which essentially partnered with us in Canada, which is doing a lot of work to accelerate startups in supply chain and logistics through the Canadian government. So we're very proud of all these new partnerships that we continue to grow in spite of COVID. And I'm especially thankful to the mentors. When you're building a startup, one of the most important things is to have the people around you that can give you the structure and guidance that have been through these challenges before. So a lot of these amazing people have experience building startups, selling startups, being corporate executives, sitting at the other side of the table, or investing. None of these are actually our corporate partners, but folks that will come to our program and really guide the companies. And our mentor network, since we started the program, is constantly growing. So the startups are able to connect to more and more people with that industry expertise. These are the startups that we've accepted into the program. So the Silicon Valley batch is a very global program. We have global partners. So that's why we brought in startups. Also, it's easier to do in this virtual environment. But you can see here, it's mostly seed stage companies. We have some later Series A and Series C company as well. But essentially, we want to be a stage agnostic accelerator. or innovation platform where we can connect startups of all stages to corporates, because sometimes the corporates want a quick win where they can actually do a quick test implementation and eventually rollout of that startup's technology. We've invested in 2 startups within this program, Nemodata and Newtrul. We're very proud of Newtrul's round was led by Autotech Ventures. But I'd like to formally congratulate every startup that's in this program. This is like their graduation day to make it through this batch. A lot of these startups have amazing applications for the large corporate partners and the great network that Plug and Play has. So with that, I know my time is short. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed today's event and you were able to connect with these startups. Feel free to reach out to our Plug and Play team and connect with any of us. We're happy to make connections to these companies. Thank you again. We hope you all enjoy the event.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your time this morning, Mike. And so, yeah, next up, we're going to move forward and hear from Jamie McCurry, who is the Chief Administrative Officer with the Georgia Ports Authority. In this position, Jamie oversees contracts, properties and planning, purchasing, grants, and much more for the Georgia Ports Authority. Jamie, please join me on stage and we can get started with your presentation.
Let's see. Hopefully, please tell me that my background is not backwards like it looks like it is.
We can see it perfectly. You're all good.
Okay. Thank you. So one of the things I think I should offer as a precursor for going into the program here is that when you look at a lot of your customers and folks that are part of the organization here, they're our customers as well. We are probably not the poster child for technology and innovation ourselves, but what we are is the conduit through which the trade for those customers flows. And so our role is having the facilities and the infrastructure in place so that we don't become a bottleneck. So what I'm going to focus on mostly is where we are and what we do. We have 2 deep water ports in the ports of Savannah and Brunswick, and we have an inland barge terminal in Bainbridge, and then 1 intermodal facility up in Northwest Georgia, and hopefully a second intermodal facility, rail serve facility to come in Northeast Georgia. Next, as we look at why we exist to foster trade for the state of Georgia. We feel like we have a pretty profound impact on that, impacting really about 500,000 jobs throughout the state, either directly or indirectly. And it's those partners of Plug and Play that make up a huge segment of this group of people that are indirectly or directly employed by a GPA. Moving on. There you see a lot of familiar brands. Basically, from the export side, we have a lot of agricultural products that flow out of Georgia and more manufactured goods. But of course, from an import side, it focuses mostly on consumer goods. And that's really where the technology and innovation comes in. Because as we go ahead and go to the next slide, the Garden City Container Terminal, which is our major container facility here, is actually the largest single container terminal in the Western Hemisphere. And it's our goal to make sure that this is a free-flowing facility, that you don't see trucks queued up and backed up for miles at our gates, that you don't see trucks queued up and waiting for miles within the terminal. We want to make sure that we've got the space, the equipment in place, and the berth space available for ships, trains, trucks, and ultimately the containers that are flowing on those to do so in a rapid and efficient manner. Next slide. The past year, just to give you a glimpse, of course, we were not immune to bad things happening in terms of volumes. The first 6 months, things started great and went to terrible. Next slide, you'll see that while the first 6 months were one thing, next slide again, the second half of the year was a profound change. We went from struggling like most places would expect to be, to having our busiest months ever on record. In fact, of our top 10 busiest months of all time, 6 of them have been the last 6 months. Next slide. So we will actually finish this fiscal year, finish the calendar year 1.8% up. We'll finish the fiscal year, if you can go to the next slide, which is July through June. Click it one more time. 18% up for the year as our current forecasted growth. We went into this current budget year thinking we would be down somewhere in the 10 to 14% range, and now we're up like that. So it's been a seesaw, and we've had to adapt a lot. Maybe some of you that are participating in the conference here are not familiar with the fact that Savannah is a pretty small metropolitan area, is the third busiest container port by area in the United States. And you can see on the left-hand side here, the top 10 in order for the previous calendar year, and then our compounded annual growth rate comparison over the last 15 years with one another. Next slide. Savannah, I'm missing some lines here for some reason on the slide, but the important message here is that Savannah and New York are the most connected ports in the United States in terms of connections globally. Savannah and New York, both with average of 37 weekly services to ports throughout the globe, actually are more services weekly than you see, or more destinations weekly than you'll see on the West Coast ports, because they're so primarily Asian heavy. But Savannah and New York are a little more globally spread and balanced in terms of our trade through the Panama and Suez canals. Next slide. I mentioned fluidity. 3 million container moves last year. We'll see as many as 14,000 and up truck moves in a single day. So processing those and making sure that we're not having delays in the system is where our investment in infrastructure and our investment in technology really comes into play. Next slide. Because we got to get those boxes out. Next slide again. Our major expansion projects in recent years have been taking our rail facilities, which have both CSX and Norfolk Southern Class 1 railroads in one on-dock facility, combining them and expanding them so that we can double our total capacity. Next slide. This mega rail facility will be finished later this year, as will another important project. If you click the slide again, the Savannah Harbor Expansion Project, which, oh, no, I got some more mega rail. I apologize. Hit this again. It'll play a cool video that shows you a simulation of what this, well, maybe not. Okay, there you go. Savannah Harbor Expansion Project, my apologies. A project to deepen the Port of Savannah here to 47 feet. Click it again. Mercifully, after 20 years, this project is coming to a completion later this year. That is critical for us to have basically anytime transit for the largest container ships calling the East Coast in and out of the Port of Savannah. Next slide. By completing these projects, it really is enabling us to serve not just the Georgia and Southeastern region, but really reach out into the Midwest and expand where a box through Savannah can be the path of least resistance as far as Midwest as Chicago. Next slide. We do that through the mega rail facility here, as well as through our intermodal facilities. You see the Appalachian Regional Port, which I mentioned earlier. This up in Northwest Georgia really creates a node. We're actually in-gating and out-gating trucks in Murray County in Northwest Georgia the same way we would directly here at the container terminal, with these trains serving directly to the ships in Savannah. Next slide. More projects to keep going. Once we reach capacity at the Garden City terminal, we'll have to have a new terminal at Hutchinson Island. Projects that will enable us to reach the capacity possible in Savannah are those here that this video will illustrate, and the next one. It's a balance between berth capacity and yard capacity. One without the other kind of does you no good. You click it again, it'll show you what we're doing to enable expanded berth capacity. We've got one, our oldest berth here in Savannah, that needs to be realigned. So this is a massive project that will, in concert again with the yard storage, ultimately enable us to add up to 1 million additional container units of capacity to the Garden City terminal. This is going a little slower than normal, which you'll see that what this project will do, not quite as fast as the video represents, allow us to again realign this berth, put larger ships there, get those ships out of the channel, clear of passing vessels, and put up new, more modern, more efficient container handling equipment. Go ahead and click, it'll finish the video. And that's what's being removed and realigned. Next slide, or next video as the case may be. And this really also gets to the point, this next one-stop dock, click it again and it should play. This is a facility that we're going to create on some property that's underutilized today. This is taking warehousing facilities that are in the way of the container terminal today, relocating them, updating them with more modern processing facilities. We will have a cross dock here that will serve multiple end users, multiple we call BCOs or beneficial cargo owners. So they can take a container straight from the dock to this one side, if you will, this cross dock building, and have those containers stripped out and loaded directly into dry vans for domestic distribution directly to stores or at a minimum to fulfillment centers in the region. Also enabling greater capacity of the terminal overall. And then lastly, click it one more time real quick. It'll be a video of how we're relocating an empty container yard that allow us to process more empty containers. As a, if you've got an import box that comes into a DC or fulfillment center, it's stripped out, you've got to take that empty box back somewhere. This provides us a facility that's out of the way of the container traffic going to and from vessels, but it's very accessible to the roadways for drivers to come and pick up or drop off empty containers. Next slide should get us out of here. Those projects are all either underway today or over the next 2 years. Next slide. And as a wrap up, what I wanted to highlight there is what the port itself is doing as an instrument of the state of Georgia to be a place, a conduit for these containers to come and go. But it's on the other end of the equation, the one step away, where our beneficial cargo owners are processing through new fulfillment centers, new distribution centers in the near port and broader area. You saw the rail connectivity. That's really where I think a lot of the innovation, the data flow is being driven. One very clear example, very recent, is on Friday, this past week, Governor Kemp announced a new Amazon fulfillment center that's going to be located here in Savannah. It's a 635,000 square foot facility by footprint, with over 3.5 million square feet of actual usable capacity, because it's a 4-story building, highly robotic, and it's the data flow of trucks coming and going from that facility that obviously are a large part of getting the many things that we buy on a daily basis to us as quickly as we do. I don't know that there's a platform here for Q&A. Maybe there's some later, but that's the presentation. I hope that I did not go through it too fast, but I wanted to give a decent orientation there as to what goes on here at the Port of Savannah.
No, that was perfect timing, Jamie. So we really do appreciate your time this morning. We know you're extremely busy, so thank you again. And I think if you'll stay for the networking, you could definitely connect with some of the attendees here today.
Excellent.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so up next, we're gonna move into our first group of startup pitches and hear from 11 terrific startups before taking our award break. And so first up, coming to us live from the land down under, we're gonna hear from Dr. Payman Kazar of DynaExpress. Dr. Kazar, please join me on stage and you can start when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Payman. I'm co-founder of DynaExpress. Next slide, please. I'm going to start my presentation with the following question. Do you want to receive your online orders in just a few hours, either free or at a very low cost? Well, if so, perhaps you should listen to what I'm going to say in the next 3 minutes. Next slide, please. First, let's describe the complexity of the problem and why you currently don't receive your orders as soon as you expect. Retailers and transport companies deal with a day-to-day complex problem of delivering thousands of orders to shoppers across the urban areas. As shown here, there are 4 layers to this problem. The optimal routing problem, the optimal to address the optimal demand, basically allocation problem, the capacity problem, and addressing the demand fluctuation problem, and finally monitoring and sending accurate ETAs to customers. Currently, most retailers use third-party transport companies to deliver their online orders, but there are problems with that. First of all, it's slow, expensive, and adds an extra step to the whole process. Let me explain on that. Conventional transport companies usually, it requires usually a pickup, then delivery to a hub, and then sorting, and then finally delivery to the destination. While you can simply pick up and deliver to the final destination. Amazon is the largest player in this market, and Amazon Flex basically gives 2 competitive advantages to all other things that we just said. First, crowdsourced drivers that are very cost effective compared to regular traditional carriers. And second, they can address demand fluctuation using crowdsourced drivers. Next slide, please. Now, what is our solution? DynaFlex, a state-of-the-art software solution to implement Amazon Flex for every transport company or retailer. How do we do that? We do that in 4 stages. First, we use intelligent territory design to use drivers' local knowledge, and basically the crowdsourced drivers make them more happy because they have shorter travel times and they only travel within their neighborhood. Second, we use intelligent shift planning and pricing. We employ crowdsourced drivers using most advanced pricing algorithms in order to address the demand fluctuation. Next slide, please. Third is the intelligent clustering and routing, addressing many constraints that are out there in real world, like heterogeneous fleet, pickup, delivery, and etc. And finally, we use a smart delivery or intelligent delivery by sending accurate ETA to customers, capability of replan, traffic, navigation, and live monitoring of the whole fleet. So yeah, that's how we address the whole problem. Next slide, please. Here's a brief information about our team. We established in 2016, self-funded, and we are headquartered in Australia, Melbourne. And thank you. I'd be more than happy to have discussions with anybody who's interested in our product.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Payman. And to everyone in the crowd, I believe a poll will come up that you can vote on if you'd like to be connected with DynaExpress and the rest of the startups for the rest of the day. But again, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you in the networking.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, so up next, we're going to welcome Roca Triguero of Expedock to the stage. So Roca and the team are building out AI and RPA solutions for global supply chain companies. Roca, please join me on stage and you can get started. I think she's just getting her mic and video ready.
Hi, sorry, can you guys hear me?
All good, yeah, we can hear and see you perfectly.
I'm taken aback by the logging out. So hi everyone, we're Expedock. I'm Roca and I lead customer success in the company. My background in logistics comes from my experience in previous startups in financial technology, fintech, and trade financing, where I've seen firsthand how fragmented data processing has been in the logistics industry. Next slide, please. So Expedock is a data infrastructure company for the global supply chain. Next slide, please. And the challenge that we aim to tackle is really the challenge was brought about by digitalization in the logistics industry. Next slide. Data has become increasingly fragmented given that it's stored both in digital and physical form. And here's what's happening. Next slide. If you're a freight forwarder, for example, this poses a real challenge across your company since your teams are working without a single source of truth. In document processing, for example, an accounts payable invoice, 70% of invoices can be paid without getting checked, according to a study by Gartner. And this results to logistics companies paying for mistakes and charges that they are not supposed to cover in the first place. Next slide. And because there is no single source of truth for data, your logistics experts end up spending up to 40% of their time extracting and reconciling data manually. So next slide. We eliminate these problems by delivering a powerful data infrastructure for our clients, where we do this in 4 steps. Next slide. We extract data from physical documents, transcribing it to a structured digital format. Next slide. Yeah, we can skip the next slide. Yeah, we can move again. We can move again. And these extracted data that we have, we reconcile this and compare it with the data sources that you have to ensure that we can flag exceptions in real time. Next slide. Step 3, we connect to your transport management systems in posting the data that we extracted and reconciled so that you can have this data inside your system. And since we process this much data for you, the aggregate of the data that we have processed can help us create reports to give you insights that can enable you to make better business decisions. We can jump to. Do you mind if we jump to slide 19? These are very specific slides that I was hoping to skip since, uh, yeah, yeah. So the solution that we've created allowed the companies that we've worked with, such as Siva Logistics, just the Ascent, these supply chain companies gain more visibility over the data that they have, assign higher value work to their workforce, and make sure that overall they're able to create more operationally efficient departments within their companies. And what we what we've noticed is that this has been very important for them, given that data has been one of the blockers for them to scale. Our team has expertise in logistics and tech from the top companies around the world. King, our CEO, comes from a family of shippers himself and did AI research, computer science, and product design in Stanford. Jeff, our COO, his family founded one of the largest freight forwarders in the Philippines, where he managed their operations in Shanghai and Manila for 3 years prior to building the company. Rui, our CTO, the guy behind our AI, finished his bachelor's and master's in Stanford in 3 years, and became a multi-time published AI researcher. As we hope to further the growth of the company and the product that we have created, we hope to get connected with people who are in large supply chain businesses, 3PLs. And we hope to also form partnerships with consultants, transport management systems, and platforms who engage in data automation projects so that we can have a richer ecosystem. So yeah, thank you so much for giving us time to present Expedock.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Roko, for your time today. So moving forward, we've got Shipium on deck for you all. Shipium allows for e-commerce companies to offer free and fast shipping with their supply chain. Oh, sorry, excuse me, with their supply chain technology. Chris, when you're ready, you can join me on stage and start your presentation.
Excellent. Hello, everyone here. Getting my video and audio set up. So nice to meet you all. My name is Chris. I'm with Shipium. Shipium helps e-commerce retailers and brands ship their orders online fast, free, and accurately. If you want to go to slide 2, the company was founded by two 20-year veterans of Amazon and Zulily. CEO Jason spent 20 years there as the VP, who built the supply chain that powers Prime. CTO Mac started the same week at Amazon 20 years ago, but then moved over to build something over there. They noticed that e-commerce companies had a prime problem because consumer preferences have changed a lot over the last decade. Lots of studies and data, as you can see, show that. You can go to the next slide. As a result, the why and the who and the where, all that is changing in terms of where customer dollars are going. So if you have an e-commerce channel, your own site, this matters quite a bit. And so on slide 4, what we can see is that e-commerce has exploded quite a lot. The pandemic has definitely pulled forward a lot of new customers as well as just overall volume. But on slide 5, what we see here is that 67% or more of the growth since the pandemic started has gone to the top 10 websites that have essentially invested in a lot of these specific supply chain innovations around fast, free, accurate, etc. So on slide 6 here, the big challenge is that the operations team is largely responsible for a lot of the things that a customer touches throughout the journey of them buying. That customer journey ultimately needs things like availability of product and fast or free options that are profitable, so on and so forth. So the CMO needs to merchandise the innovations of the COO to ensure that the key aspects are competitive. But few supply chains have the kind of modern software implemented to connect both the front end and back end to do that. So most are not real time, most don't use stochastic modeling, most aren't modern. So that's the problem Shipium went to set out to solve on slide 7. And this is really a lot of insight under the hood of what Amazon does, speaking from the source of the team that actually built it. If you think about a supply chain, it's essentially a linear sequence of decisions that have to be made in terms of fulfillment on the e-commerce side. Over the last 20 years, these are effectively the 4 most important decisions as it relates to customer experience in terms of product availability, speed, cost, profits, all that kind of stuff. So I'll kind of go left to right here. What matters first is when you have all of the merchandise, the key decision point of where do you actually put it? It turns out that you can only ship stuff from where it's located. And so if you place inventory as close as possible to prospective buyers, it will just inherently be faster and cheaper to ship. So we help large enterprises just figure out where within their network to place that. Then if you assume that you place everything appropriately within your network, you now have the ability to offer a competitive delivery promise. That means both a fast delivery date, buy it today and get it Thursday, as well as a free shipping option that is presumably profitable on the back end. We help with all of that, which is largely stochastic modeling. So if you assume that things are now placed, customers are now buying because they know when they're going to get it, you now need to decide how you're going to route an order across your complex network of existing assets like FCs and DCs and so on. At Amazon, they call that F2P. We have a similar concept called shipment generation or shipgen, which is essentially the brains or how you handle splits and reallocation and which FC you ship from and all that. That leads to the final a use case or decision, which is carrier selection. Now, you would think this is a part of shipgen, but it's actually its own isolated job that is managed more in a just-in-time fashion. The reason why is that picking the best shipment method and the best box size from the given FC is the best way to ensure you're always choosing the cheapest possible shipping method, because it turns out shipping is the highest operational expense on an e-commerce balance sheet, but also ensuring that you always hit the promise that you gave a customer. So on slide 8 here, how the platform works, you can think of it as customers consume the platform via a set of APIs that essentially broker decisions related to these use cases. And then on the other end, we integrate into existing systems of record, like a TMS or ERP or so on, and any sort of third-party tool that is needed. So let's get the traction here. So who we help, essentially, if you are an e-commerce retailer or brand, if you have your own channel and you run your own fulfillment center, meaning you don't use 3PLs, then we are a perfect fit, because we will upgrade the decisions being made with the systems that are managing your fulfillment network. So the operators and decision makers of tech-forward companies there are who we help. And effectively, the greater the complexity you have, so the more FCs, the more SKUs, et cetera, the more value that we add. The platform is set to process several million orders by the end of 2021 peak. The clearest value add is simply saving on shipping. So if you have $100 million in annual e-commerce sales, you'll typically spend about 12% or 12 million in outbound shipping. We can save 2% of that just right off the top, and often more. And then the other clear value is that we help reduce WSMO tickets, because customers will have a better insight in terms of when they'll get their packages and the accuracy around when it'll actually get there. So I'll finish it with, just as the Amazon diaspora expands, a lot of ex-Amazon folks are ending up at other e-commerce companies. The list of tech-forward organizations are looking to leverage the kind of ideas and tech that Shipium has. So it's only going to get more competitive out there in terms of who and where and how customers buy. So if you're looking to solve that prime problem as well, I'd be happy to chat. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate your time this morning, Chris. We'll see you along with all the other startups later today during the networking piece. So up next for you all, we've got Ben Jones of Ohi Technologies. So Ohi is allowing brands to have sub 2-hour deliveries through their micro fulfillment centers. Ben, please join me on stage and we can get started.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah, we can hear and see you perfectly.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having us. Ohi is an instant commerce platform, and so really our core belief is that in the very near future, all commerce is going to be instant. Brands are and consumers are going to expect everything they buy online to come within a matter of hours. We've seen that trend happening throughout various areas of commerce over the last year to 18 months, whether it's hot food delivery, whether it's convenience delivery, whether it's grocery delivery, and e-com is really that next domino that's going to fall. The issue is that for many brands, it's really impossible to compete in that new instant, by which we mean less than 2 hour world. The traditional logistics networks just don't get inventory close enough to the end customer to enable them to do that. And so that's really where Ohi comes in, and our platform helps any brand from early stage startups all the way through to large enterprises offer an incredible post-purchase experience centered around the concept of 2 hour delivery. So this is kind of talking about the problem set. Really, the way we see the world evolving is there's a difference between marketplaces and enabling platforms. On the marketplace side, you have obviously people like Amazon, Walmart, Target, but increasingly people like Uber, DoorDash, GoPuff, that are helping brands actually sell the product to customers. The upside of that for brands is that it is a great sales channel for them, helps them increase GMV. The downside though is that they don't get access to any customer data, they lose that relationship, and their product ends up becoming commoditized, just another commoditized product alongside all their competitors' products on an external marketplace. Really, the way that we see Ohi's positioning and the future of e-commerce is much more on being an enabling platform, helping those brands compete through their own websites, offering this incredible service and convenience to their customers, whilst retaining ownership of their customer, their data, their brand. The way we do that is through a network of micro warehouses, so independently run locations within cities across the US. And Ohi is the technology platform that powers them. So we provide all the data analytics to help brands understand what inventory to position where within the network, as well as really providing the interconnections between the brand's websites, the locations to enable the orders to actually get fulfilled, and then last mile delivery carriers to enable them to get delivered to the customer. So really knitting together this pretty complex network of different parties to create a really, really seamless end consumer experience. Next slide, please. So we are B2B2C. The consumer is aware of who Ohi is and what the Ohi experience means. We've really focused on providing this incredible experience to brands. We're not a logistics platform, really. We're really much more of a consumer experience platform, and that really translates into the ROI that brands see from us in terms of increased conversion, increased repeat purchase rates, increased NPS scores. And you see here that very high percentage of customers give the experience 4 or 5 stars after ordering from us. Again, as an enabling platform, we really want to make the brand the hero in this journey. Being able to provide, brands for so long have really focused on that pre-purchase experience on their website, their branding, their marketing. But that post-purchase experience is so often forgotten. It's just like, cool, they've ordered, we'll just ship the product to them in 3 days. We're really changing that and enabling that post-purchase experience to become an integral part of the customer's journey and the customer's experience with the brand. And so as such, we really help the brand, this is one of our customers, Olipop, stay front and center and be the hero throughout that journey. Next slide. And yeah, this is slightly outdated now, but we have been growing very quickly. We're gearing up to raise our Series B round. We've got locations now all across the US in a number of markets with over 50 different brands on the platform. So we'd love to chat to anyone that's interested in the space, interested in what the future of instant means. Thanks.
Perfect. Cheers, Ben. Thanks so much for your time this morning. So yeah, up next, we're going to hear from Martin Hitch of Coros, who will shortly be joining me on stage. Martin and his team are working on building out a computer vision system to help optimize movement of goods across the entire supply chain with real-time visibility. Martin, I'm sure you've got more to say about that, so I'll let you take it from here. I think he's getting his mic and camera ready. Let's give him a couple more seconds. There we go. We can see you, Martin.
You got me now?
Yep, got you.
User error.
Good. Ready when you are.
All right, thank you. So my name is Martin Hitch. I'm the CEO here at Coros, and I'm excited to talk to you about what we do. We are tracking small parcel movement across the supply chain, and the key thing here is this is the fastest growing segment of the supply chain. There's 15 billion packages shipped in 2019. 2020 numbers have not been publicized yet right now. Pitney Bowes is the organization that typically tracks and publishes that information. Obviously, we're expecting a significant increase because of the pandemic. But amazingly, of those 15 billion packages, more than 10% don't reach their destination on the scheduled committed window, and that is what Coros helps with. So what we do is we use computer vision, which means we deploy a ruggedized camera out on the edge, and we track the flow of goods and the chain of custody of goods from first mile, middle mile to last mile. And we then take that information and we make sure it's shared across organizations. So if we switch to the next slide, what this means we're doing is with computer vision, we are capturing ground truth. So the difference for anybody in the audience here who runs their own supply chain, what you wish would happen, what your WMS system is telling you is going to happen today, or your ERP system is telling you is going to happen today, and what actually happens are two different things. And so far, we haven't met anyone in the supply chain who would dispute that. What we do with our computer vision is essentially we're extracting the information and tracking that chain of custody and creating a new source of truth. So this is ground truth data of actual parcel movement, not planned parcel movement. By connecting it across those siloed entities, so think of capturing from the shipper, from the seller, I should say, and then enabling the shipper to access that same data. And then likewise, tracking it all the way out to the last mile delivery. So we deploy cameras not only in that first mile warehouse, but follow it all the way through, and we deploy cameras into last mile delivery vehicles. And we track the flow of goods in and out of the vehicle. We track the movement of the vehicle so we can close the loop on the delivery of that parcel. And we're deeply integrated today with the carriers in the US, which is essentially allowing us to then connect this and deliver the information back to all the different entities in real time, and giving them actionable information as things deteriorate inevitably through the supply chain. By creating and delivering actionable data, it's allowing these different entities to course correct before the product is a missed delivery at the end of the chain. We go to the next slide. So how does it work? Probably the most magical thing about Coros, and for any of those in the audience that operate a warehouse, this is a piece of technology that can be self-installed, designed like a consumer product. And to give you an example of that, we recently installed devices into McKesson facilities. We track COVID-19 vaccine for Moderna. And those devices, from unboxing to delivering data, took 45 minutes. And again, for anyone operating a warehouse here, I think that's probably an unusual experience to be able to have a device that could be that effective in such a short period of time without a 6-month consultative sale process. So what you're seeing here essentially is the way these devices are installed above dock doors. They're installed above, think of it as the egress or the ingress of any facility or into the vehicle. Computer vision allows us to identify every package, regardless of the complexity of the flow of those goods, and then identify the unique information on those packages. So labels, barcodes. Then we can extract things like service levels, and obviously any critical information that has to be pulled from out of it. If we go to the next slide. So what does this look like when it actually deploys into your system? So simple device, self-install, put it across your egress. That edge device is the thing that's capturing the information. We then process those images. So for anybody that works with computer vision today, these images are far too heavy to be able to move them anywhere. So the device is processing into and creating the data out on the edge. Then the lightweight data is transferred to the Coros cloud. That cloud is what is then shared across everybody. So we then have the data is stored there. It's immediately accessible in real time. And depending on the service level, that's what we're creating, whether you're operating a warehouse or you're operating a middle mile vehicle or right down to a last mile vehicle, we make sure that you get the right data there. And that's allowing customer applications to be built on the top. That's us.
Perfect. Awesome. Right on time, Martin. So yeah, we appreciate it, and we'll see you shortly.
Thank you.
In session. Yeah, so up next, we've got Christina Martin of Ecustoms. And so the Ecustoms team digitized custom clearance process to speed up the flow for all stakeholders in international trade. Christina, great to have you. Let's see if we can get your mic and camera on, and you can start when you're ready. Perfect, we can see you.
Hi, thank you. You can see me?
Yep,
can you
start when you're ready.
Okay, so ready. So hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Christina Martin, CEO and co-founder of Ecustoms, a collaborative SaaS platform to streamline global trade. International trade energizes the world, but what seems to be something simple, it's a very complex and fragmented process. I have been working in logistics for more than 15 years, suffering the pain firsthand. So let me share with you my experience. Supply chain stakeholders are not connected together. As such, the synchronization and the data processing is an absolute nightmare. Next slide, please. The organizations reprocess the same data manually over and over due to the paper-based process. Next slide, please. Do you know this important data? 20% of the transportation costs are due to the waste generated. Next slide, please. Imagine you can avoid this 20% of waste. Next slide, please. Of a huge market. We can save $2.5 trillion per year. Next slide. And moreover, being sustainable nowadays is a must. And for that, the use of a collaboration platform is the key. Next slide, please. So I'm going to tell you something. In logistics, we are not used to collaborating, so we need to change our mind. That's why we decided to build Ecustoms, a globally scalable, agnostic, open, collaborative, and interoperable cloud platform to allow and facilitate the synchronization of the different participants and their systems in an easy way, using APIs or our internet interface utilizing artificial intelligence, blockchain, or machine learning. Next slide, please. Of course, I'm not doing this alone. We are a 15 people team today within 5 nationalities and gender diverse, with more than 100 years combined experience in logistic business and software development. Next slide, please. Ecustoms can be adapted to your business needs, adjusting which data to share and with whom, easily and secure, setting up notifications, inviting your partners, even if they are not customers of Ecustoms, without licenses or complicated integrations. Ecustoms is responsible and is easy to use for any kind of corporates. Next slide, please. Our business model is a SaaS, and it will be evolved into a SaaS-enabled marketplace in short. Next slide. Those are some of our customers and strategic partnerships with authorities, consultancy corporations, shippers, freight forwarders, and ERPs that we have already seen, saving time and money for them. Next slide, please. The competitors are huge companies that, for example, are taking care about trade finance, or there are electronic freight forwarder or digital freight forwarder, or, for example, ocean companies. But all of that competitors force you to work with one bank with one technological company or with one freight forwarder. And that's why we are better, because we are an agnostic, global, interoperable, open, and collaborative cloud platform. Next slide, please. And these are some of the awards we have received last year, but I want to highlight one. Next slide, please. We have, next slide. We have presented our project in United Nations, and it was recommended to be a global standard for synchronizing global trade. Next slide, please. We have already raised $1 million of our seed round with Draper as lead investor, and to accelerate the growth from 56 customers to 1,000, we need to raise our Series A of $6 million, now with a save up to the 20%. Next slide. So thank you for your time, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Christina. And so up next, we've got several more startups in this first group, and we're now going to hear from Tom Mowat of Vesta Smart Packaging. So the Vesta team are building out a smart containers that can automatically refill itself, which has been proven to be economically and environmentally sustainable. Tom, please join me on stage, and we can begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much, and hello, everybody. I'll spend the next 3 minutes trying to explain to you what a packaging company is doing at a supply chain event. Next slide, please. We all know the scale of the plastic problem. These numbers should still shock you. The packaging industry is the single largest contributor to the global plastic problem. Next slide, please. There's a reason we use so much plastic poorly, and it is the structure of our modern supply chains. Manufacturers produce their products and ship them out the door. Past that point, that's the end of where they see them. They can go from warehouse to distribution point to logistics center to shop to cupboard. We simply don't know how long this is. Manufacturers therefore have to, when they're selecting packaging, optimize for both cost and for lifetime, minimizing cost, maximizing lifetime. The answer to that question, despite recent improvements, is still plastics. If we're going to hit this problem, if we're going to impact the way we use plastic, we need to go after the required lifetime of our packaging. Next slide, please. This is where Vesta comes in. Vesta Smart Packaging is a system comprising 3 core parts, which does something very important. Our smart devices are intelligent and they are connected, and each time they're used, they update us as to how full they are. Our platform uses AI to provide a personalized prediction very accurately of exactly when individuals will run out. Our application provides device management and refill authentication. These 3 things combine to provide a zero effort, zero consideration supply of whatever product is stored within the Vesta package. Next slide, please. We work very simply. We design and make Vesta packages. We know brands and other companies have invested a huge amount of time in the look, feel, and experience of the packaging they deliver their product in. We also provide ongoing connection and data services. I'll talk a little bit more about data in a couple of slides. Next slide, please. We are already providing packaging across multiple products, and we're applicable across all 4 major sectors within CPG packaging. Our technology is designed to be completely flexible, and it can fit into any size, any shape, any product, any material. Next slide. Where things get particularly interesting from me and my background is in data science and advisory, is we provide, along with the auto replenishment service, which is fundamental, and the shortened supply chains, which allow us to target the plastic, we provide data set that CPG's never seen. Who has your product? How much do they have? And how do they use it on a personal level? I mean, the basic secondary order use cases for some of this data I've listed out here are already extremely exciting. But some of the even more advanced pieces we're finding as we start to do proof of concept studies surprise us still. For example, we're using a washing detergent Vesta package. We've seen the time of day people have been using their washing detergent and advised their users to use them later in the day to save electricity cost and reduce carbon emissions. There are literally hundreds of these that we're developing as we start to expand. Next slide, please. Some of our tractions, we've already done 5 PSE trials. There's loads more coming. We've grown very quickly in the last couple of years, and we are growing much more quickly this year. We've got a completely bootstrap solution created in-house by our incredible team, who I'll talk about very quickly on the next slide, please. As you can see, multidisciplinary hardware, software, strategy, product developers, marketers, salespeople, all been doing business in various ways for more than 10 years, and we've built the whole thing in-house with, well, very little assistance so far, but we're looking forward to expanding. Next slide, please. If we're going to hit something quite as big and global as the plastic pollution problem, we actually need to find a way of changing the way we do something really structurally. To do that, we actually have to offer a system which offers a benefit on both sides. So from the manufacturing side of things, we offer direct sales, the chance to recover your retail margin, repeat sales, consumer engagement, customer loyalty follow naturally from there. And I've already spoken in some detail about the tremendous value within this data set. On the consumer side, it's the chance to reduce your impact on the world around you, and we know how important that is for the modern consumer. Critically, we're also offering convenience. Let us take the hassle out of providing those things you need day to day in your life, but probably don't really enjoy buying that much. Lastly, we offer security of supply. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. We do appreciate your time this morning. So yeah, up next, we're going to hear from Bleenco. And so the Bleenco team are building out an automation platform for industrial safety and efficiency. Ed Ice, I'll have you join me on the virtual stage. And let's see if we can get your video and mic up. And let's see, perfectly. Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So hi guys, we're Bleenco. We're a startup based out of Munich, Germany. We have an AI platform for situated workplace automation focusing on environment, health, and safety. Next slide, please. So why EHS? Safety nowadays is a core component of every single company. And obviously all companies want to prove themselves as sustainable leaders. And so we want to help drive this change. Next slide, please. Productivity losses for repetitive manual EHS workflows are absolutely massive. This can lead to a lot of work time loss in the factory as a lot of monetary loss. Next slide, please. So in order to mitigate this, we replaced repetitive manual workflows of human employees with digital workflows using digital workers. Next slide, please. So we, Bleenco, are the software that's in the middle of sensing and interacting. The sensing is any current infrastructure that you may have on site, be it RGB cameras, microphones, etc. Our software integrates into this, analyzes the data on that side, and then it integrates into the interactive portion of your info, such as microphones, LED displays, etc., to let your employees know in real time what they are doing incorrectly. Next slide, please. This is our most popular use case, which is personal protective equipment detection. So our software has integrated into the RGB camera that was already on site. It is picking up on what these workers are or are not wearing. And the red dot on the worker to the right, that shows that he is not wearing his glasses. So in turn, the LED screen in the left bottom hand corner, you can see that the workers are being nudged to put on these materials which they are not wearing correctly. Next slide, please. So what's very special about our solution is that we use AI components. So this means that within a very short amount of time, we can rearrange these said components to create a completely new use case, such as this one, which is object tallying. So right here, what it's doing is it's detecting the speed of the cars as they go up the ramp, as well as counting the entries and exits of the vehicles. So this object tallying feature not only works for vehicles, but it can also work for anything that you may need counted. Next slide, please. This is our forklift or forklift human detection use case, and it is also very popular. This is in a gas facility. Those are cans of gas. So obviously, if the men run into each other, that's going to be a problem for the men, and that's going to be a problem for the company. So a range is detected to notify these employees if they are driving too close to each other or driving recklessly by integrating into the speaker, which would emit a loud sound if they come within a certain breach of each other. Next slide, please. This is our leakage detection use case, which is very popular among our chemical companies. So it can detect any current leakages. On the right, you see that it has already detected any current wet surface. So that way, when on the left, it detects new active leakage, that old wet surface isn't included in that analysis. And what's very nice about this, as well as all of our other use cases, is that SMS alerts can be customized and sent to your phone, to your email, however you prefer to be notified. And then in addition, on the back end, all of our solutions can create a backlog of data in a PDF format for the manager to see. Next slide, please. This was a COVID-specific use case using a thermal camera. And so we can do a lot with thermal cameras as well to scan gas pipes, the temperatures of employees, etc. Next slide, please. We are currently in use by many worldwide companies such as BASF, Unilever, Daimler, and more. So if you have found any of our solutions interesting, we would love to talk with you. Please connect with us directly. Stop by our booth, and we would love to help customize a solution for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Dice. And yeah, we'll see you in the networking session pretty shortly here.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, so up next, we're going to hear from Nick Dimitruk, the CEO of BitRip. And so the BitRip team have taken something very elementary and made it extremely smart, that being duct tape. Nick, please join me on the virtual stage and you can begin when you're ready.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear and see you perfectly.
We are BitRip, an on-the-fly tool to rapidly attach digital to physical. Next slide. BitRip is a tape that holds a pattern similar to a barcode. However, this pattern is continuously changing and always unique. Every inch of every roll is a one-of-a-kind pattern. This means BitRip can be ripped to 1 inch or 1 foot. It doesn't matter. It will always function as one complete code. It's the world's first barcode that rips, the first barcode that can wrap around almost anything. Next slide. So now, within a matter of seconds, you can pin digital content or live conversations in any corner of the physical world. It's as simple as texting, but instead of occupying just the digital realm, it reaches out into reality. It's barcoding for the masses. Next slide. It's an everyday communications platform organized by the 3D space it relates to. And because every scan automatically stamps and updates GPS location onto each ripped piece of tape, a user can track conversations on a digital map as well as the physical world. So where does this on-the-fly barcoding come in handy? Next slide. Well, we believe almost anywhere. Attach digital copies of facilities and maintenance documentation to machinery. Use the geolocation feature to track moving assets, such as vehicles, equipment, even people. Digitally track your supply chain when the complex architecture of scanners and printers are just not there when you need them on the fly. Or just a simple project management tool. Tape on a wall, holding photos, documents, and voice memos. Much better than a simple scribble on a sticky note. Next slide. All BitRip essentially does is close the gap between what is on your screen and what is out there in real life. So one inspector, one expert, one supervisor, and their commanding voice can be 300 different places at once with a single roll that fits in the palm of a hand. 300 conduits that let you listen, absorb, and add to the conversations out in the field. It's being 300 places at once through a network of tape. Next slide. We've produced thousands of ready-to-go rolls. We have a companion app on both iOS and Android for phone and tablet. And just today, we have the capability to integrate with any software out there via a software developers kit, literally adding physical reach to any software solution you see. Next slide. BitRip is digital to physical convergence in the most practical way possible. Please visit our website to find out more or contact me directly, nick@bitrip.com, with any questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. We really appreciate your time. Yeah, so up next, we're going to hear from Aya Zook presenting for Abeja today. And so Abeja helps with the analysis of accumulated data. Aya, I'll let you dive deeper into all of the Abeja capabilities. So if you'd like to join me on stage, get your camera and mic set up, that'd be great.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Sean. Hi, my name is Aya. I'm from Abeja, and we're helping enterprise scale with the power of AI. Next, please. And a little bit about us. So we're a Tokyo-based company. So we're later stage. So we've been around since 2012. We have around 100 employees around the world, around 30 data scientists. And we have investors in the likes of Google and NVIDIA, which are probably two of the foremost minds in AI today. Which means that we're battle tested from deploying a number of AI solutions into live production environments. Next, please. And for companies that are typically trying to implement AI into their operation, they run into three challenges. And typically those are non-IT companies, right? So even if you have all the data in the world, if it's not made to understandable by a machine or model, then it's useless. And two, you're gonna have to build an environment, right, to be able to analyze data. That means you're gonna have to build a team of data scientists that go out at around 200K a pop out of college, and you're gonna have to build the algorithm, right, which is not part of your natural skill set. And even if you get through those two hurdles, the real challenge starts when you get into operation, because now you're going to have to keep on feeding the model really high quality data to keep up the accuracy. Then from time to time, you're going to have to make an investment by retraining the model if there's any kind of new data set that hits the market. And this is where Abeja platform comes in for around $3,000 a month. So we take away all the hassles from creating an environment that you're going to have to create on your own to deploy the model. So really there's a bunch of boxes here, but you should take away three things that we do. We're going to give you a way to store data, we're going to give you a way to process data, then we're going to give you the means to deliver data to an endpoint, which could be in camera or drone or an API call to one of your existing systems. Next, please. So while we are somewhat industry agnostic, we have been working mostly with these three sectors in manufacturing, logistics, and infrastructure. And so this gives us a nice domain expertise across these areas. And this makes up around 75% of our revenue stream so far. Next, please. So quick use case in point. So Daikin, which is one of our investors as well as a top customer. So they're the #1 air conditioner manufacturer in the world. They actually bought Goodman in the US for about $4 billion a few years ago. And one of the things that we did was took a look at their maintenance support center to see what were the nature of the calls between the agent and the requester, and see if there's a way that we can improve the accuracy of the request to the repair parts that needed to be shipped or delivered to the site to fix the air conditioning unit. So based on that work, as a result, we were able to reduce the number of average visits from 3 to only 1. So that's a big deal in the hot, simmering summer months. And we're able to help them improve their CSAT, as well as help the company position themselves as not only selling products, but selling a service that people actually wanted. Next, please. So we do have competitors, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this, but nobody has the track record of the past 8 years, as well as the backing from the minds of Google as well as NVIDIA. Next, please. We do scale across the world, so we're not just limited to Tokyo by no means. Next, please. And today I'm looking to meet customers, right, especially across manufacturing and logistics infrastructure that really want to scale their operation through the power of AI. So come and talk to us if that's a way that you're trying to build a competitive advantage. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And so, yeah, up next, we're going to move to the final startup of this first group. Please welcome Sachin Garg of Saara to the stage. Saara helps online stores and fulfillment centers reduce, automate, and monetize returns. Sachin, I'll pass it over to you right now.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Sachin, and I am founder and CEO of Saara. Saara is an intelligent return reduction and automation company. Next slide. Let's look at the problem. In e-commerce, almost up to 55% of the goods are returned. Usually speaking, it's about 30-35%, but in some categories and some territories, it goes all the way to 55%. And the cost of handling returns in a fulfillment center is very high because of all manual operations involved. And then even if you are able to do that right, after that, you have to still monetize the returns. Either you have to restock it, or in some way you have to try to resell it at a certain kind of price. That's why most of the business are not able to make profits because of returns. Next slide. Yeah, so the solution essentially lies into a couple of things combined together, which is behavioral science and automation. If you can combine them together, we believe that we can reduce the returns, we can definitely automate them, and then eventually we can also help monetize those returns. Next slide. So what we have essentially built at Saara is an AI engine, which looks at hundreds of parameters, some of them are mentioned here, and looks at different 5 stages of the return. So at first stage itself, just we look at an e-commerce platform and try to understand, even before an order is placed, we can find out things which can cause returns, right? We have things like review listener, which understands why people are returning a product, deep understanding about the product, and about the geographies, some of those things which we do for solving returns even before an order is really placed. Second level comes in when the order has been placed. Once the order is placed, what do you do? Can you go back to the previous slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so second is the order. Once the order has been placed, we find out what could go wrong with this order. That could be depend on customer history, the location, the mode of payment. A lot of these things will come in. And the third place is, when the return is really happening, when the customer is looking to make a return, at that time, we have built certain intelligence which could actually, convince the customer to really keep the product, right, instead of returning it. Of course, if it is completely unusable, then you can still return it. But if there is a way we can influence him, we try to do that. So that's our USP. We focus a lot on the even before the order kind of a processing. On the other hand, on the right side, once the order has started, the return has started, what happens then? So, how are the returns processed in a fulfillment center? We have built some computer vision tools which can actually help you do quality inspection that can have a significant impact on the bottom line of the companies. And we also, intend to work on e-commerce, which we don't do today. And we are looking for partners, into reverse logistics space or fulfillment center space, where we can partner with the companies and, help them automate their returns processing and the e-commerce part of it. Next slide, please. So being an e-commerce business, integrations are a part of our business, right? We have 3 kinds of integrations right now, which is more platform integrations like Shopify or Amazon. We also work on the logistics side. We integrate with, USPS, DHL, ShipRocket, etc. And then we also have software integrations because a lot of e-commerce platforms work on WMS systems, ERP systems, order management systems. So we integrate with a lot of them already. So we have total overall 40 integrations already in place. And if your business is not running on one of those, we will be happy to integrate for you. Next slide. So let's look at a typical case study. So right in one of the customer case, we have been able to reduce their return rate by 31%. And so return is not a monolithic problem. It has pieces towards it. So we have fixed things at various levels using our technology, which has led to the reduction in the returns of the 31%. Next slide, please. So we started working with some customers already, and some are in pipeline. In US itself, we are working with, for example, with PVH right now, and Dell, Sharaf, TGs in Middle East. So primarily focused on US market and North American market. Next slide. So how are we different, right? So return is a massive problem today because of the pandemic, especially the e-commerce is growing so rapidly. So apart from our technology, one of the important things which you will notice when working with us is that we're always listening. We want to listen and understand your problem and try to solve it. And our pricing model is such unique that we don't make money if the returns are increased. And then finally, returns also lead to pollution. And we see that that's the biggest value which we add as a business and try to improve the climate change. Next slide. Okay, that's in short about the team. Apart from me, I'm the founder and CEO, as I mentioned. I have Isaac and I have Lalit. We'll be happy to help you. Please get in touch with us if you're running an e-commerce store or a logistics company. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you, Sachin. And yeah, so that wraps it up for the first group of startup pitches. So big congrats and thank you to all of our startups in the first group. We'll see you guys very shortly coming up in the networking session after the second group of startups. So right now we're going to take a break from the action and move into our award ceremony. And with that, I'd like to welcome my dear friend and colleague Dominique Reese to the stage to announce our winners this year.
Thank you, Sean. And now I'd like to start with announcing the startup awards for this batch. So the 3 startups that will be receiving awards this year for our batch 8 program will be Expedock, Byways, and Ecustoms. And they will be receiving the awards because they've been the most willing to progress and change in their startup by taking advantage of the tools that we've disposed to them in terms of mentorships, pitch polishing, and attending our various workshops. So congratulations to these 3 startups, as well as the rest of the startups that participated in our batch. Next, I'd like to be announcing the Mentorship Awards. So the 3 Mentorship Awards will be going to Hillary Garner for being the new and most active mentor this batch, Valerie Graham for always being flexible with her schedule and being very communicative with us, and Tobias Bayer for being engaging, attending events, and keeping open communication, as well as being flexible with his hours. So thank you to all the startups and the mentors for this batch. And now I'd like to pass it to my colleague, Amy Ta, who will be announcing the corporate awards. Okay, she should be turning on her microphone and her camera now.
Can you see my video?
We hear you, but we don't see you. There we go.
Alrighty. Thank you, Dominique. I'm excited to announce our partner awards today. First of all, I just want to say that all of our corporate partners have worked really hard in the last couple of months, but I want to take this time to recognize 3 of them. Our first winner of the 2021 Partner Award goes to Brascam for our pushing through with several pilot programs with our plug and play startups in the last couple of months, despite navigating a very challenging year. So very well done there. Also, thank you for your support in the program, from offering office hours to speaking at events. It has been really great working with you guys. So big congrats again on that award. Our second award goes to BASF for always pushing the envelope and finding new technologies and use cases for the chemical industry, bringing us so many new and interesting research topics. We admire your true collaborative spirits and the enormous support in Silicon Valley, and also especially in the launch of the Plug and Play Toronto office. So thank you, and looking forward to working more with you guys. And last but not least, our third partner award goes to Writer for the highest level of engagement with our batch 8 startups. They somehow make innovation look easy, with it being an integral part of their culture, always seeking new opportunities and improvements within their organization. Also, truly thanks for always willing to help out, collaborate, and providing feedback for us. We really value the partnership. So thanks and congratulations again. We really look forward to seeing everyone again in person to shake your hands, but this will do for now. Again, thanks to all of our winners, Brascam, BASF, and Writer. And now I'll pass it back to Sean.
Amazing. Well, yeah, again, big thank you and congrats to all of our startup, mentor, and corporate award winners. Before we jump back into our second group of startup pitches, I would like to remind everyone to please view all of these presentations in full screen in order to participate with us in the exit polls and chats. And please be sure to mark yes or no so that we can connect you with the startup presenters today. So yeah, up next, we're gonna jump right back into the action and hear from the latter 11 startups. Up first, we're gonna hear from Chris Smith, the CEO of Slip Robotics. So Chris and his team are creating a new loading and unloading robot for trailers. Chris, if you can join me on stage, you can take it from here.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, so we're Slip Robotics. Like Sean said, we're developing a solution for loading and unloading trailers. Next slide, please. So our team has a variety of backgrounds. I have experience from Tesla and Cummins. We also have experience from Waymo and GE. Next slide. So we basically have built a truck loading robot, and what that does is it reduces the trailer loading and unloading time to less than 5 minutes. From, if you're currently loading via pallets, that's somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes, and if you're doing parcel loading, so with boxes, you can be up to 2 hours of loading and unloading time. So we reduce that to 5 minutes, and the way we do that, if you go to the next slide, is basically the robot gets positioned in the dock lane, in your current staging lane. Next slide. Once it's positioned there, you can load it with pallets, you can load it with parcel. Next slide. Once the truck gets there, the robot goes onto the truck. So next slide. 3 robots fit into a 53-foot truck. And next slide, it then goes with the truck to the destination. Next slide. When it gets to the destination, the robots come off the truck. So what this allows us to do is to do a few things that have some pretty significant impacts on supply chains, especially if you're looking at short haul dedicated type routes. The first is that we decrease dock labor by up to 80%. We also can reduce truck driver labor significantly by reducing waiting times of truck drivers, so they're not waiting for load and unload to happen. We can turn them in much less time. We also can decrease the lead time to the destination. I think about my past experience when I was at a few different companies, and we'd have a warehouse next to a manufacturing plant, and it could be 5 minutes down the road, but it's 2 to 4 hours down the road of the supply chain, and that's just because of the loading and unloading time it takes to get stuff to that destination. Last thing it does is it reduces how many docks you need to operate. We can basically flow 10 times as much material through a single dock door. So if you have dock constrained operations, we can provide a solution that will really help that out. A couple other benefits. One is safety. About 25% of industrial accidents happen on loading docks. Anyone that's been around one kind of understands why that's the case. There's a lot of blind backing of forklifts, and it's generally not a super safe environment. And so our solution allows it so that operators never have to go into trailers, which can significantly improve the safety around the dock. We also don't require any infrastructure changes. We work on current infrastructure like dock levelers or dock plates, and don't require any high power charging areas. Because of that, we can be really quick to commission. We don't require integrations with WMS or ERP systems. We happen post or pre-scan, so a lot of our commissioning can happen the same day, and so we can get a robot running quickly. So areas that it helps especially well right now is dedicated short haul routes, so shuttle routes between facilities, whether that be in manufacturing or in distribution, or in transferring material between a supplier and a customer, right? And so other things that we do particularly well is moving big and bulky material, material that's difficult to move via forklift, or high value material that you don't necessarily want a forklift running around with. So that's really what we're focused on at Slip Robotics, is improving loading and unloading for our customers.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Chris. And so, yeah, moving forward, we're going to hear from Monique Apter of Elementary Robotics. The Elementary Robotics team is cooking up something new with Vision AI. I'll let Monique get into this in a little bit more detail about what they're working on. So Monique, if you'd like to join me on stage and get your camera and mic ready, we can begin.
Great. Can you hear me and see me?
Yep.
Great. So good morning. My name is Monique Apter. I'm the Vice President of Sales with Elementary. We were founded in 2017, and our solution is a full stack, no code AI vision inspection system that leverages the cloud for deployment and analytics. So there's no question that quality negatively impacts your bottom line, and it's costly, and we at Elementary don't think that solving for it should be. Next slide. One of the best ways to address quality is with AI vision, but legacy solutions were not built around leveraging the power of AI. And so you have this gap that has developed of companies trying to take advantage of the innovation, but saddled with old ways of addressing the problem. Next slide. So the bottlenecks that we see and hear from customers are first around data and analytics, right? A common theme today was leveraging data. It's why there are Industry 4.0 and 5.0 initiatives. And when data is collected, it's often siloed and not easily shared. The second is really that the software is rules-based, which means it's rigid. So you can't easily change as your business changes. And then deployments take a long time and require an integrator, which is expensive. So when you take all of that into account, the ROI becomes difficult. And so we at Elementary close the gap by providing easy to deploy cloud, no code required AI vision inspection. Next slide, thanks. We are a software forward company. Our focus has been and continues to be in developing the kind of user interface that allows customers to be in charge of deploying, particularly around vision systems to their line without needing experts. So from camera setup to capturing images to developing dashboards with insights and analytics, we've made everything self-serve. In terms of the hardware, we don't manufacture our own cameras. We've taken the best of breed off-the-shelf components and integrated them in a packaged way so that your teams don't have to rely on and pay for outside expertise to pull everything together. So plug and play is really at our core, which is one of the reasons this forum works very well for us. Next slide. Setting up the hardware is done with an intuitive user interface that walks you through setup with step-by-step instructions. So if you think of a Nest Cam in your home, we took a similar approach because that's the type of solution that allows you to scale and not be dependent on outside expertise. On the software side, you get an intuitive user interface that is really a point and click exercise to set up inspection. So training the model is a matter of labeling data. As long as you can label data and you're experts in your own product, then you can build an AI model. And then it auto trains based on labels that you put in. So we have customers with quality, global quality teams, for instance, that have the on-site maintenance team set up the hardware, and then the quality team remotely sets up the inspection and deploys it to the camera. And then once it's set up, you can copy and paste it to multiple cameras in multiple facilities. And then finally, the data is assimilated and analyzed and can be reported on in a variety of ways. Our processing is on the edge, but the analytics of the data leverages the cloud. So you can view line level data, plant level data, or any aggregation and mix that you need, and then share that across operations anywhere in the world real time, and then make intelligent decisions around root cause analysis and do predictive analytics. So that's really it for today's presentation. Thank you so much for your time. And if our solution is interesting, we would love to talk to you in more detail.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Monique. We do appreciate your time. And so, yeah, up next, we're going to hear from Alexander Palfi of Byways. And so Alexander and his team are trying to improve the loading and unloading process between trucks and logistics hubs. Alexander, I'll have you join me on the virtual stage and you can begin when you're ready. See, I think he's trying to get his mic and camera on, so let's give him a couple more seconds.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Alex, one of the two co-founders of Byways based in Berlin, Germany. And Byways is optimizing warehouses, optimizing logistics around supply chain with dynamic time slot and yard management system. Next slide, please. When organizing transport between a carrier and a warehouse, our clients suffer from three main issues. First one is decentralized communication. So still happening over phone calls and emails, perhaps WhatsApp messages. Second is high fragmentation. There is more than 5 stakeholders involved in the whole transport planning process. And the third one is information silos. Each party has their information stored in hundreds of different systems, also pen and paper or Excel. And the result of the tedious process is a very static schedule that doesn't reflect reality. And if something changes, for example, truck arrives too early or too late, the whole process has to start from scratch. Next slide, please. What does this mean for our stakeholders? So looking at shippers, carriers, and freight forwarders, they have to spend around an hour for organizing a simple transport. Looking at drivers, they end up waiting, paying high fines, or lose potential business because they're stuck at previous deliveries. And the third one, warehouses are not utilized to maximum as they have to be ready for unexpected deliveries. Next slide, please. Byways is solving this massive problem with the power of artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. However, we understand that you cannot automate what is still manual. So you cannot apply artificial intelligence to the paper-based processes. That's why we split our progress into 3 steps. In the first step, we digitize, then we optimize, and then we automate. In the first step, Byways SaaS product enables warehouses to get rid of phone calls and emails and digitize the whole negotiating and planning process of time slots, enables paperless truck registration, brings full transparency to the unloading and loading process, and enables warehouse staff to communicate amongst one another and also with the driver in our multilingual communication platform. On top of everything, Byways is also creating a proprietary data set of loading and unloading information used in the next step. In the second step, we are optimizing based on 2 major data sets. One is the truck ETAs, so why wait if the truck is not arriving on time? And second is our loading and unloading predictions, which are basically allowing you to book just the time you need for the loading and unloading process. Additionally, we are also predicting warehouse busy hours. That means we are distributing your cargo movements across your supply chains with the highest efficiency and helping warehouses with staff planning and capacity predictions in general. In a final automation step, Byways is unlocking the full potential of our clients, both warehouses and carriers, by removing the manual processes completely. Next slide, please. Our paying customers and supporters love us. We are working with shippers and carriers and their warehouses. Our clients range from very small warehouses that have 2 ramps all the way to the ones that have more than 200 ramps and docks. Next slide, please. Simon, the other half of our co-founding team, is a machine learning expert. His PhD was focused on vehicle travel time predictions in dynamic environments. He also spent 2 years as a researcher in Silicon Valley and 6 years at Volkswagen Research, where he was leading tech teams and focusing on delivering data-driven solutions for the next generations of vehicles. I'm Alex, the other part of the co-founding team. Logistics was always a big part of my life. I started working at warehouses at the age of 14. Most recently, I was the head of product at Sender, unicorn from Berlin, shipping solutions used by over 10,000 shippers and carriers. Next slide. Thank you very much and looking forward to your questions.
Right on time, Alex. So we do appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you shortly in the networking. So yeah, up next, I'd like to welcome Amy Robinson to the stage. And so Amy and the Nemodata team plan to accelerate EV adoption and reduce emissions while enabling fleets to run continuously without breakdowns. Amy, it looks like you got your camera and mic ready to go, so you can start when you're ready.
Great. Thanks so much for having us. My name is Amy, and I'm the COO of Nemodata. Next slide. Our co-founders are Gal and Tom. Gal has a background in connected vehicle data products, and Tom built artificial intelligence models to predict Alzheimer's in patients before symptoms ever appear, and now applying that same approach to heavy-duty trucks. Next. So the good news is that data is available about vehicles, a lot of it. There are tens of millions of connected vehicles transmitting 20 gigabytes of data per hour each, and this amount will only increase over the next decade exponentially. Next. But the bad news is more data does not equal better decision-making for fleet managers. In fact, too much data can be extremely overwhelming and difficult for human beings to take data-driven decisions. Next. One great example of this is fleet maintenance. So even with all that data coming from telematics devices, fleets experience more than 100 million out of service days each year due to maintenance. Billions of dollars in costs and lost revenue, and not to mention the CO2 emissions coming from those same vehicles. So lots of room for improvement. Next. At Nemo, our vision is to power the next generation of fleet operations and harness the power of data and artificial intelligence to enable any fleet to operate at its best and support those human fleet managers. Next. Our AI agent works with existing telematic sensors on the vehicle to predict which vehicles will break down and optimize the fleet maintenance schedule accordingly with no additional hardware or integrations. Next. creating a direct and measurable impact on the bottom line and saving heavy-duty fleets between $3,000 and $5,000 per truck per year. Next. Our unique technology combines real-life sensors on the vehicle with our proprietary virtual ND sensors to track actual deterioration in vehicle subsystems and get a holistic view of the health of each individual vehicle. So we can compare apples to apples no matter what make and model, and leverage AI to optimize the entire fleet maintenance schedule. Next. Today, our traction includes commercial pilots with Fortune 500 enterprise fleets, telematics, OEMs, and tier 1 suppliers to offer our unique AI capabilities. Next. And together, empower fleets to operate their best through the power of AI. Next. So thank you so much, and please reach out if you'd like to continue the conversation.
Perfect. Appreciate it, Amy. I know it's late where you are right now, so get some rest, and we'll see you in the networking session. Yeah, so up next, we're going to hear from Newtrul. And so the Newtrul team are connecting shippers, brokers, and carriers through a centralized portal, essentially an Expedia for trucks. John, if you'd like to join me on stage, get your camera and mic set up, you can get started. Perfect. I think we got your oh, we had your camera for a second there. All right. Looks like camera's good. And if we can get your mic set up as well, we can get.
Yep. Just working on the background.
Yeah, no worries. All good. No worries if the background's not working, we can just go forward without it.
Can I jump right back in? Sure.
Yep. Whatever's good. So it looks like John hopped off. We'll come back to him and we'll move forward to our next startup with Ware. If Ian's ready, we can get him on stage and we can jump back to John. Amazing. Ian, we can see you, we can hopefully hear you, and you can get started.
Great. Sound okay?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, thanks. So yeah, I'm Ian, I'm the CEO of Ware. We deploy self-flying drones inside of warehouses to automate their inventory tracking. So we've done this before. We've been in the commercial drone industry, worked with a variety of industries outdoors. And the big difference here is that now there's problems we can solve indoors with robots that happen to fly. And so we essentially have these cameras that we can put in 3 dimensions, and we use them to capture the value of the most low-hanging fruit in the warehouse, which is tracking inventory. And that leads into the next slide, which basically describes the problem. And so these massive warehouses that are, storing and fulfilling and moving around all these goods that we're buying are extremely large today. They're huge horizontally, they're growing vertically. The average ceiling height has actually grown by about 4 feet over the past 5 years from warehouses because they need more space. And so the big problem here is that since there's humans putting away goods, there also has to be humans tracking the goods and understanding where they are. And so one of the dirty secrets of the industry is that most or all big warehouses don't know where every single thing in their warehouse is because of human error. And so we solve that with our flying robots. If you go to the next slide, with the drones, they fly around fully autonomously, take pictures of the inventory. We analyze those images, localize them to tell where they can be in potentially hundreds of thousands of potential locations in a warehouse, and then analyze them to tell the customers what they need to do by comparing it against their system of what they think is there in their warehouse management system, and we tell them where it actually is. And so we don't make the drones. We partner with the world's premier, smartest drone manufacturer. They produce a nice little aircraft called Skydio-2 that's on the left. We're the only ones that have a partnership with them. That allows us to focus very deeply on the software, the AI, the machine learning, training these models and these algorithms to help our customers understand even deeper about what is in their warehouse, where is it and where isn't it as well, which is something very interesting for them. And then we do this all as a service, very simply. You don't have to become a drone fleet manager or an expert. And if you can press a button on a smartphone, you can use our entire system. The drone flies itself. On the next slide, you'll see that the flow of how we deploy these systems is pretty easy. It's essentially a 3-step process. Starting top left, we've got data collection. Press the button on a smartphone app, drone flies fully autonomously without hitting anything inside the pallet racking of a facility and takes hundreds and hundreds of images, flies for about 20 minutes, and then comes back to the exact same spot it took off from, and it lands. At that point, that data is uploaded to our servers in the cloud for processing. We extract all the information, we localize the images, and then we place every single piece of inventory that we saw inside of our software, deliver that as reports, and then compare it to the customer's warehouse management system so we bubble issues up to the top. So they can use their already very thinning, very tough to kind of maintain workforce for tracking inventory in a much more efficient way, and they can increase their accuracy ever higher. On the next slide, you'll see just a little bit more about the drones themselves and why we use them. We had our pick of the litter. We're experts in the area. We chose Skydio. They chose us. They make the world's smartest drone. It's got, like 9 different neural networks operating on it, 6 different navigation cameras, 360-degree obstacle avoidance, and all this other extra great stuff. But to us, that means we get to develop on simple APIs and SDKs, have really deep access into the system, and importantly, through COVID and beyond, it lets us deploy completely remotely to our customers' facilities anywhere in the world. We've got systems out in the UK that we've worked with some of the world's largest multinational 3PLs and deployed systems there that we're making permanent and also elsewhere. If you go to the next slide, this is just a little peek at our software. Once you get the data, our system categorizes it, adds tags very smartly. And when you click into one of those, you can see just a quick little image of the, if you go to the next slide, of the actual inventory. And now instead of having to walk a quarter of a mile and going up 30 feet in the air to check one location, you've got images right at your fingertips, right at your desk. And so that's pretty much it. I think that's the last slide there. Come by our booth. Would love to chat with you and see how we can help. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ian, for jumping in right there at the last minute. We do appreciate it. Yeah, so now I'd like to welcome back to the stage, John. Hopefully we got the background and everything going now, and we can jump into Newtrul's presentation.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yep, and it looks great. The background's working perfectly.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Second time's a charm, I guess. I appreciate that. I appreciate Ian, you covering for me there. Like Sean said, my name is John Tozer. I'm the COO and one of the co-founders of Newtrul. Since I wasted a little bit of your time and we only have 3 minutes to do this, I'm going to just jump right into it. So we started Newtrul back in 2018 because we saw a big problem in an enormous industry. The problem we saw was fragmentation, and the industry was over-the-road, full truckload, transactional freight, or spot freight. We found that the asset-based carrier, which is depicted on the right side of this graphic, has about 150 different websites, web portals, mobile applications, and those are growing every day, to search for, and in some rare cases, digitally book freight. We found that this fragmentation actually doesn't really help the asset-based carrier. It just causes more noise. Next slide, please. And this noise is costly. Amongst all the other costs, it costs a shipper and broker approximately $75 is on average to find an available truck. It also contributes to what we believe is the biggest cost, and that's 29 billion miles driven either empty or partially empty on US roads every year. Next slide, please. We believe and are proving at Newtrul that the solution is aggregation. By aggregating an asset-based carrier's customers into a single platform via our proprietary API integration with the shipper or broker's transportation management system or their system of record, we're able to provide an Expedia-like experience for the dispatcher or the load planner at a trucking company where they can log on to, search for, and then digitally book or bid on freight. We believe this positions us to be the first stop on a mid-sized carrier's booking journey. Next slide, please. We're also proving that this aggregation reduces the frictional costs that we see from the fragmentation. We target over 70% savings on the cost to procure a truck. However, we're seeing much higher than that right now. We're seeing in the 80s and close to the 90% on our first customers savings on their cost to procure a truck. Next slide, please. A little bit of how it works. So I described a little bit of it previously, but we integrate with a broker or shipper system of record, or their transportation management system. A lot of these shippers or brokers don't even know that Newtrul is working in the background. We pull in a variable freight that's committed, so it's real trustworthy freight into our platform based on status. We then advertise it to their private network of carriers that they've already set up, as well as a public network of carriers that we vetted so that they can search through, digitally book, or bid on the freight. We provide that UI to the carrier for free. So we provide both convenience and trust to both sides of the marketplace. Next slide, please. Our business model is an honest, cost-free model. So we only charge when a transaction is made. If you're using the platform, you're presenting loads on the platform and a transaction happens outside of the platform, we do not charge you. We don't charge for integrations. We have flat rates, no minimums, and therefore no risk to implement Newtrul. Next slide, please. And I think I stayed under 3 minutes. Sean, you can let me know if I did, but like I said, my name is John Tozer. You can reach me at john@newtrul.com. If you have any questions, if you'd like to dive deeper, you want a demo, or if you're feeling the capacity pinch already and you need a solution like Newtrul, please reach out to me and we'll get you set up straight away.
No, that was perfect timing. So we do appreciate it, and we'll see you at the networking soon. Yeah, so up next, we're going to hear from Gebecert. And so Gebecert, we're going to have Nick Williams be presenting. So if Nick can join me on stage, get his mic and camera set up, we can begin. Amazing, we can see. Yep.
You see me?
Yep.
Okay, hi, my name is Nick Williams. We're from Gebecert. Next slide. Basically in 2017, what happened is 4 of us friends actually died from fake alcohol when they attended a conference. So this is where our journey began. We wanted to basically make sure this never happened again. So what we do is we thought we could come up with one microchip that can solve all problems across the supply chain. So basically creating transparency. Next slide. So our research, what we found is there's about $1.4 trillion worth of counterfeit products, and around about 10 to 40% of products actually get lost along the supply chain. The 3 main areas of concern which we're focusing on is the retail manufacturing, the logistics and supply chain, and of course, digital certification. So what we found is we want to actually create what we call a distance e-validation system. Next slide. So what we do is we actually combine blockchain and microchip technology. Blockchain for the security side of things, and of course microchips so that we can personalize every single product. Next slide. So what we do is we actually embed these chips either into the labels or the product itself or onto a card. And we do this as seamlessly as possible so we don't actually interrupt any of the manufacturing side of things or logistics. Next slide. The way it works is our chips are specially encrypted. Once that chip is placed on the product and anyone scans it, the encryption actually then goes to the blockchain. It verifies that chip encryption and then sends information about that product back and then re-encrypts the actual chip itself. Next slide. So the idea, the benefits for our clients by embedding this chip is 1, we solve the anti-counterfeit side of things. We got end-to-end tracking of products. All that data can be used for analytics. You can reduce the actual labor costs and time saved. We can actually add digital documentations onto the chip. So every chip, basically, you know exactly where it's come from. We can actually track parallel trading. We're also doing things with tracking the transfer of ownership in the second-hand market, and also reconnecting with the customer through after they've sold the products through third party. Next. So this is the landscape. As everyone knows, it started off with barcodes and QR codes, and then people like Zebra and Dover, they entered the market with software to complement these 2D technology. The only problem is these can be easily faked. So therefore, it moved on to stuff like the blockchain, which is Everledger and Ariane, and then we combined the chip and blockchain technology. Next slide. These are the companies that we're working with. We basically got contracts signed with Taylor Brands, Men's Warehouse, Scheffler we're dealing with. Also, we're dealing with Thai government when it comes to the vaccine side of things. And we're also speaking to a lot of the other companies, about 60 other companies as well. Next slide. So this is our team. We're based globally. We have an office in the US, in New Jersey, as well as in Hong Kong. Myself, President, Sam Chow is the CEO, Roman is the CTO, and Solak is the CEO in the US. And also we got a brand ambassador, Steve Nash, helping us with sports brands. We've got 3 full-time developers and 6 project managers. That's fine, carry on. So yeah, if you'd like to contact us, please do come and visit our booth, and thanks very much.
Yep, Nick, thanks for your time today. Yeah, and so up next, we're going to move forward and hear from Pascal Tags. Brandon Young is the CEO and has created a chipless inventory tag system. Brandon, if you'll join me on stage, see if we can get, there we go, we can see you perfectly.
Hi, my name is Brandon Young, and I am the founder and CEO of Pascal Tags. So what we do is we built the first commercially viable chipless inventory tag. So what this means is we've built the ability without any active electronics, no chip, no battery, with the simplicity of current existing technologies, so a barcode, allowing a full cradle-to-grave experience throughout the supply chain. And a good example of this is with one of our initial pilot companies, where with GE Appliances, we were able to determine that they use RFID and barcode for nearly everything. And when we actually got down to understanding how this was built, we realized that they use, in general, the approach of 4+ tags per product. They have reduced efficiency throughout their supply chain, and they don't really have data at the individual product level. This hinders this corporation and not only reduces their overall ability to better serve their customers, but it hinders the entire supply chain. And this is because the current siloed model of where every single supply chain approach currently has manufacturing that's typically independent of their logistics, their retail, and really their end user. And with this internal databases and overall reduced complexity in the approach, this is what results in reduced efficiency and worse or less quality products. And this is why Intel is estimated over $800 billion is lost each year, simply because the lack of data and transparency throughout the supply chain. And so with our approach is to simplify this, calling it cradle to grave, where we can put a tag on during manufacturing. Because our tags are completely chipless, we're able to put it on in any environment, whether it's highly dense materials or even materials with high exposure, or on materials that may, or products that may last a substantial amount of time. And then in reference to kind of the overall supply chain, we're able to track it and identify it, reducing the number of databases, as well as reducing the overall approach throughout the supply chain. Our products, we have 3 of them. We have our chipless inventory tags, where we're able to be printed via completely what I would call inkjet printable printers, and then we can detect them via our custom detectors. Our competitive advantage is that we're durable throughout the supply chain, and we're a product level inventory tag that is over traditional labels like barcode. We have no battery or chip, and we're less than a cent per tag. And then we have 2 initial pilots we've completed with over $75,000 initial revenue. And we have an estimated ROI of $2 million per year for these clients, with an overall reduction of 4x of tags throughout the process and 300% increase. And we were initially funded by National Science Foundation. Then we have a great team with great experience, with over 20+ years experience on the technology side, with experts like Robert Rotzel and Jim Abbott. And on the business side, we have some of the very distinguished people, including John Hill, who helped build this industry roughly 50+ years ago, where he was a part of the first barcode and RFID level companies. So we have everything you need to build a great foundation and continue to grow from the progress we've had to this point. I want to thank everyone again for their time. And if you want to reach out, you can reach us directly at my email or during the booth. Thank you again.
Amazing. Yeah, no, thank you. We do appreciate it. So up next, we're going to hear from Ben Goltaber of Hash. And so Hash enables real-time modeling and simulation of complex systems. Excuse me. Ben, looks like you got your video up. Let's see if your mic works. And yeah, you can begin.
Does it work? Great. Yep. Thanks for the introduction, Sean. Hi, everyone. You know, I think if there's been a theme so far in today's plug and play presentations, it's been about the complexity of the modern supply chain. We heard about this from Jamie McCurry at the beginning with the 14,000 truck movements within the Port of Georgia every day. Many other startups have brought up the sheer complexity of the supply chain. And in order to solve this, data is definitely part of the solution, getting better data systems. But better data alone probably won't do this. It's quite easy to be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data that makes up any part of the supply chain. And we instead want to talk about having better models and better modeling of the supply chain. That's what Hash does. We're building a general purpose simulation platform. And as you can see from the next slide, thank you. I'm Ben. I'm leading our simulation engineering efforts at Hash. We're building a platform for continuous simulation. You might have heard of this as digital twins. This is where you can connect your existing data systems, your existing data warehouses to build and power agent-based models of your supply chain operations. And one of the advantages of this is that it can hold on this slide. Thank you. Yeah. That's great. So by building these kind of models of your supply chain, you can easily inspect what's going on in your supply chain. And then you can also run optimizations and derive insights from it, leveraging computer-driven decision-making to help reduce the complexity and find better solutions. Next slide, please. So when talking about simulation, we really want to highlight 3 benefits of this. You can use simulations to find the best options. So you can engage in multi-parameter optimization searches. You can discover new strategies, highlight risks, and explore what-if scenarios. So that's really getting insights from simulations and using it to understand your warehouses, trucking, railroad operations, whatever they may be. And then finally, you can use these simulations to generate data for other ML applications. If you're trying to automatically highlight different problem areas through a ML style application, you'll often need to create synthetic data. And that's where simulation can really shine. And in all of these cases, we found that applying our platform Hash to the specific industry has realized multiple results. We've worked with a number of different teams on being able to build simulations using Hash. And most recently, we worked with a team on vaccine distribution. And we've found that by being able to model the problem better, we can then run optimizations through Hash to be able to find the best parameters or the best ways of engineering or designing your supply chain, your specific part. And next slide, please. Here's looks like that clip isn't playing. That's fine. This is a screenshot of our solution. In this case, this is a model of a cloud environment where you connect to your own data warehouse. It defines your cloud infrastructure, and we can easily spin up a simulation from that and then see, given different what-if scenarios, given different conditions, what will happen. And this can save money, can optimize processes. And when dealing with just the complexity of the modern supply chain, where you can have thousands of workers in a warehouse or using delivering goods, all of these are cases where it's too complex for an individual to handle it and keep it all in their head. But rather, by using computers, we can automatically find and optimize the process. Come talk to me in the networking session. I'd love to highlight how we can use Hash's agent-based modeling platform for your own use cases.
Amazing, perfect, Ben. And we do appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully during the networking, you can play that video for some folks that visit your booth. Awesome. So yeah, moving forward, we're almost at the finish line. So hang on with me. And so please help me welcome Brian Glick, the CEO of Chain.io, to the stage. And so Chain leverages the pre-built adapters to connect your systems to your customers, suppliers, carriers, and more. Brian, feel free to start when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Brian, the founder and CEO here at Chain.io, and in this video, we're going to do a brief demo of the Chain.io system. The problem that Chain.io solves is that it takes a long time and it's very expensive to integrate different trading partners across the supply chain, whether that's carriers, freight forwarders, or shippers. One of the reasons for this is point-to-point connectivity, which is like running a phone cable every time you need to call someone directly between your house and theirs. This ends up looking like a mess for shippers and providers, and we simplify it by connecting everyone to the Chain.io network and orchestrating all of the data interchange between different systems. In this example, we're going to look at a freight forwarder who is onboarding a new customer, and that customer uses Mercado Labs as their order management and TMS system. So this freight forwarder has a number of trading partners in their network, including other freight forwarders, software systems at customers, as well as rating systems. And we are going to go into the setup for Complete Materials Company. In this setup, we're going to add a new integration where they can receive booking data. We'll call it New Booking. Choose the API connection that they can then provide to the shipper. And choose the source file type of Mercado Booking, which is the system from which the shipper will be sending the data, and CargoWise Forwarding Booking, which says that they will want this data to go into their CargoWise system. That's it. There's lots of options here that are specific to CargoWise, but we will just use all of the defaults and hit save. Next, we want to send data back to the shipper. So we will create another integration where we will send shipments back as they are modified and updated. Same idea, send shipment, this time from our CargoWise system. In the CargoWise Universal XML, we will say only for our customer number here. And then go on down and say the destination file type is the Mercado shipment. We will use the customer's account ID and basic information, and again, an API endpoint, which would be provided by the Mercado system. And that's it. We hit save, and we've set up a back and forth connection between a shipper and a freight forwarder.
Amazing. Yeah, appreciate it, Brian. We do appreciate it, and we'll see you very shortly in the networking. Awesome. And so, yeah, last but definitely not least, we're going to hear from Jean-Baptiste of Flowlity. So Flowlity is using AI to synchronize supply chain planning with your suppliers and customers. Jean-Baptiste, start when you're ready. Let's see if we got you on stage. Perfect.
Thank you, Sean, and nice to meet you all. So thank you for listening. I'm going to present to you what we are doing at Flowlity. And so I'm the CEO and co-founder of Flowlity. And next slide. So the problem we are solving is inventory issues. We know that every year, $2 trillion are lost because of bad inventory management, either because you have too much stock or not enough. And this is a growing issue. Inventories have been increased by 32% in the past 15 years. And it doesn't mean we don't have shortage. We have more and more shortages. So basically, we have the inventories at the wrong place. And so how do we want to solve this issue? So next slide. What we provide is a simple SaaS solution to do supply chain planning and especially operational supply chain planning. We are doing basically three things: forecasting how much we are going to consume or sell, then place in the smartest manner the inventories and the buffers or the safe stocks, and three, give a recommendation how much to order to the supplier. So this is the solution. So we try to build a product, next slide, that is simple, powerful, and that is allowing your company to be connected with their suppliers and customers. So the question is, why are we unique? Well, we're unique because we have a unique take on inventory optimization. And we try to enhance how MRP or ERPs are working today. So if you take a standard MRP approach, how does it work? Well, first you do a forecast on a family of products that you disaggregate on a SKU level. And then you run an MRP during the night usually, and you get to the replenishment plan. What happens is that you have a strong bullwhip effect that's happening inside this process. And so you have very low accuracy in the replenishment plan of your raw materials, and you end up having shortages and issues. So next slide. Flowlity is taking a different approach. It's what we call a flow-based model, And what we do is that we place buffers, like for example, on spokes here, and then we are forecasting with our AI algorithms how much is going to be consumed using past consumptions and other data. And then we dynamically adjust min-max buffers so that we can really reduce volatility and have more stability and efficiency in the supply chain. Next slide, please. So we have built specific machine learning algorithms to really forecast on a SKU times location level how much is going to be consumed or sold, or what is going to be the lead time. And we have dedicated algorithms to do that use various sources of information, could be external data or internal data. Next slide. And we have quite tremendous, very good results. And we are benchmarking all the time our approach against a different kind of approach. And we have been able, with our first customers, to deliver significant inventory reduction or shortage reduction. And yeah, quite significant. And you can see a subset here. Next slide. And we don't stop there. So Flowlity has been built like a network. And what we want to do is that after optimizing your inventories of raw materials, we want to connect you with your supplier. And so we offer a free portal to the supplier so that they can receive directly better forecast of how much they are going to sell to you, and the next order, and they can validate the next order. The goal is really to make the purchasing of raw materials reliable through the digital platform Flowlity. And next slide. So we are 3 years old, and we have been working already with quite a high number of big companies. So we have more than 15 big customers. And because of the uniqueness of the solution and the satisfaction we have been able to bring to these customers, we have recently won the European Supply Chain Startup Award, and have been named one of the 50 most promising European startups by Google and McKinsey. So that's it for me. Thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you, John Baptiste. And a big thank you to all of our startups who presented today. Right now, we're going to move into our guest speaker with Bish. And so Bish is a chemical engineer by training. He joined Unilever in 1991 and has worked in R&D and across various parts of the supply chain, including manufacturing planning, logistics, customer service, and procurement. In his current role, he is responsible for the supply chain of beauty and personal care division. Bish, looks like you've got your camera worked out, and great to have you, and you can get started when you're ready.
Thank you. So let me start by giving you a little bit of a background about Unilever. We make a wide range of fast-moving consumer goods. Some of our brands you would be familiar with, whether it's Dove or whether it's Hellmann's mayonnaise or Ben & Jerry's. So we make products, we make food, we make household cleaning products, and we make beauty and personal care products. 2.5 billion people buy our products every day. We operate in about 190 odd countries, and roughly about 150 odd thousand people work in our value chain. And our vision is to be the global leader in sustainable business. And we are very firmly convinced that our multi-stakeholder model can create superior value for both for all our stakeholders, in not just the shareholders, but all stakeholders. Now, our business is more than 100 years old, and the context in which our business was founded, that context has been challenged and it has changed quite dramatically. So moving to the next slide, if you think about it, the world has changed and is changing very, very rapidly. We've seen the kind of disruptions that have happened over the last 12 odd months. But COVID is not just, it's just one of the many disruptions that businesses like ours have been faced with. We've seen enormous fragmentation across all aspects of our business. So whether it's fragmentation of consumer preferences, fragmentation of how people consume media, fragmentation of the sales channels through which we sell, we're seeing massive fragmentation at all ends of the spectrum. That is being then further aggravated by a need for hyper-personalization or customization from our consumers. And that itself brings in its own challenges, because our business was set up as a business which was based on mass production, mass distribution, and mass communication. And then on top of that, there's this whole new way of consumption, which is this always on demand, which companies like ours need to lean into. So the entire landscape in which we operate has undergone a tectonic shift over the last, I would say over the last 15 odd years, but especially so over the last three or 4 years. Our supply chains, which were built to serve consumers, were built on an old paradigm. And just as I've explained, that the whole because of the changes in the landscape, a one-size supply chain is no longer relevant. So moving on to the next slide, so our supply chain was built on consistency, it was built on scale, it was built on a one-size approach, which was built on sequential flows. There are many advantages of this kind of a supply chain, but for one, it is definitely not agile enough. So it takes almost 6 weeks from the time a consumer picks up a product from the shelf to the whole loop being completed and the same SKU being replenished, so to say. Now, like I said, we've got increasing complexity and volatility. There is the fragmentation of channels is leading to the very high cost of serving. The cost to serve is going up. Business model innovations have become absolutely critical to stay in the game. So it's almost a crucible moment for us, and therefore the only way out for us is to actually innovate our way out, innovate and pivot to the future. So we are transforming our supply chain to keep pace with the changes that are happening and to be future fit. And if you move to the next slide, we are operating with what we call how do you sense the trends that are and listen to the weak signals as they happen. Having received or having picked up the weak signals, how does one craft it into the relevant business opportunity, and then from there, how do you execute and transform using a horizon-led model, which looks at what's right for now, what's right for the new, and what is it that we think is out there in the next horizon. Now, we are actually the way we do this. We do this by working on 3 pillars. Moving on to the next slide, which is essentially focused on three very simple things. The first part of it is about the people. It's about how do we get our people to be future fit? How do we get our people to appreciate the changing context, be excited and inspired by the change that is coming at them rather than feel scared? And how do we equip our people to be future ready? The second big thrust for us is we recognize that to do this, we cannot do it alone. And therefore we need partnerships. We need partnerships across the board, be they with large retailers, be they with suppliers, be they with small startups. So we are very actively looking to partner with companies and organizations outside who have parts of the answer that is required to be future fit. And finally, this is about building a set of relevant platforms which run across all processes in the supply chain and help us therefore get future ready. I want to talk to you about some of our recent partnerships. If you move on to the next slide, please. So we're doing a lot of work in terms of crafting what we call the factory of the future. It's about envisioning a different condition of manufacturing, which is first of all, linked end-to-end from the shelf to the suppliers, and has the ability to be intelligent and to be much more data-driven. So we are working with a set of partners in building digital twins, which if you've been following that space, you would have picked up that we've done quite a lot of work with Microsoft and a couple of other partners in that space. Virtual control towers are a very key element of this whole journey, with its control towers to drive logistics. It's about when COVID hit us, control towers for resilience were extremely useful in helping us navigate through the storm. And interestingly, what we are also looking at now is to take the work from the digital twins of the factories into manufacturing control towers, which have the ability to orchestrate manufacturing across multiple locations from a remote site. Then moving on to the digital eye of the consumer, this is one of the big thrusts. We believe machine vision is a core technology that needs to be embedded in our system. This is about what we're doing with a couple of partners to look at applications in the field of quality and line performance improvements. And finally, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about what we call the digital twin of the planet, which is about how can we use real-time analytics from satellite imagery, working with a set of 3 partners to build a model which actually helps us predict and anticipate deforestation. So moving on to the next slide. Actually, the one after that. So deforestation accounts for about 15% of the total GHG emissions, total annual GHG emissions. We are one of the largest end users of palm oil, a commodity that has been very widely often linked to deforestation. Our natural ecosystems have declined by an average of 47%, and about 1 million species of plants and animals have been extinguished or are at the risk of extinction. I think it is absolutely vital for us that we as a company play our part, not just in cleaning up our end-to-end value chains from deforestation impacts, but helping the industry make a transition to stopping deforestation. We do this through a combination of policy interventions, by working with industry associations, by working with our supplier partners. But what I'm going to talk about is a piece of work that we've been doing with 3 partners in using geospatial analytics to anticipate deforestation and prevent deforestation. So moving on to the next slide, what we've done is working with 3 companies, Descartes Labs, Orbital Insight, and Google Earth Engine. We've been using their capabilities to map the first mile flows in the palm value chain. We've then been trying to use this to build a data ecosystem for all the origins that are in our value chain. And then using that, looking at how can one, so once a tree has been felled, it's almost too late to stop it, to stop deforestation. So it's about how do you anticipate where deforestation is likely to happen, and how can one act in real time to prevent that from happening. So if you move on to the next slide, essentially what we ask ourselves is, first of all, defining where are the forests, and you'll be surprised as to how much ambiguity exists in terms of what is a forest, and how. So this is about then using geospatial analytics to look at where are the forests, looking at it in looking at early signals, because deforestation is usually accompanied by human activity, and therefore, as you see movements of bulldozers or other earth-moving equipment, it's in areas which are supposed to be no-go areas. It's an early signal of probable deforestation. It is then therefore being able to predict where is it highly likely to occur, where is its potential the highest, and then therefore what action can we take with our partners in the value chain to prevent it from happening by intervening in real time. So this is an extremely exciting piece of work. It uses very different types of technology, and that's the beauty of it, that it's not just about any one cool piece of technology. It's a simulation of multiple bits of tech to craft a very unique solution. And that's just one glimpse of the kind of problems that we are grappling with. Let me talk about what keeps us awake at night. And this is where, in subsequent sessions, I'd love to connect with some of you in terms of the problems that keep us awake at night. So moving on to the next slide. Like I said, because the landscape is changing, our original or our point of starting point for our supply chain, for our value chains, has been fragmented and not necessarily very well integrated in terms of data flow. So the first part of it is, how does one leverage data and analytics to create a connected value network end to end, from the shelf to the supplier, or from the supplier to the shelf? The second big one, where we need partnerships, is about technology that can help, that is relevant to, and that can help unlock circular economy solutions. Be they in the space of plastics, be they in the space of other materials. So circular economy solutions is a big challenge for us. Designing for automation, and automation at two levels, whether it's a world of physical automation in our factories and our warehouses, including starting with the conventional robotics to cognitive robotics, or indeed in the space of the automation of processes, again moving from rule-based RPAs to cognitive automation of processes. It's about the other area that we are continuously looking for solutions and suggestions for is in the area of new business models, be they in the area, so whether it's dispensing of products in store, or any other manner of engaging with our consumers, or helping our consumers get access to our products in different ways, when they want it, in the form that they want it. And that's a big area of work. And finally, it's about building a diverse and inclusive supply chain, because we recognize that we have a responsibility to ensure that while progressing and while growing, we need to include every element of and every member of the society, and help them grow with us. So be that, so you would have seen you might have seen the commitments that we made in terms of living wages, but it's also about equipping our workforce, equipping the workforce of our supplier partners to be future fit by way of, and therefore technology in the space of skills and ed tech is definitely something that is of interest and relevance. And finally, I want to leave you with the thought about our ambition is to become a net zero company by 2039. So just to leave you with a thought, our footprint today is about 97 million tons of carbon. About 4% of that is in our direct control. 26% is upstream with our suppliers, and about 70% is with when consumers consume our products, which is whether they make a cup of tea, or whether they store the ice cream in the freezer, or the hot water that is used to have a shower or wash clothes. And therefore, the carbon, the working together to find carbon solutions is the other. So these are the 6 broad areas in which I would, we are looking for partnerships. We are very interested in partnering with startups who might have solutions in this space. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you, Bish, for your time this morning. We know you're very busy, so we do appreciate it. Getting a little insight on what's going on in Unilever from you. Perfect. Yeah. So up next, I'd like to welcome Farzin Shadpour to the stage for some closing remarks before we jump into our networking session. Let's see if we can get Farzin online. And there we go.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us today and giving us a couple of hours of your precious time to us and to the startups who deserve this more than anybody. They have been working very hard in a year of challenges with pandemics, travel bans, and limits on how to engage, and yet they have managed to get introductions. They have managed to do pilots and even have some implementation. So kudos to all of them. And I want to personally thank them for giving me personally the opportunity to be part of their journey and to spend some time every week chatting with them. Really, I personally learn from those mentorship sessions. Sometimes I feel more than they do. And so kudos to them, and thanks to all of them for the hard work that they have put in the past 3 months or so. I want to also thank Jamie and Bish for their words of wisdom. They put it way better than I could have about the challenges and opportunities that we have ahead of us. I love what Bish said, that we have to pivot and innovate our way to the future and to face the challenges that we have and the goals that we have set out for ourselves. It has been great to see a year that, despite the challenges, we have had lots of wins. And I have had a first row seat. I've seen people embrace digital more than ever and get rid of their paper in their operations. We have seen people embrace AI technologies to inspect goods and services and operations. We have seen people use autonomous and automated and robotic systems more than ever in their operations. And we have seen people have more attention and respect for sustainable practices than ever before. As Bish put it very well, we have so many forests out there, and so we cannot keep taking away. We have to start, in fact, reversing and adding to them. And so to that end, there have been many great conversations that I have had the privilege of being part of and witnessing people from corporations to governments to people who have a say in terms of foundations and non-for-profits to do something serious about the challenges that we face. And so I am very optimistic that we will see great things happen by the startups that you saw pitched today in the next few years, as well as the greatest startups that we have had in our family in the previous cohorts and we will in the next cohorts. Thank you again for your time today. Please do take advantage of the Attendify platform and do network with the startups. They have even more to tell you than what you already heard, and I'm sure you will benefit from that interaction. Back to you, Sean.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Farzeen, and thank you again, and congrats to all the presenters today. So yeah, like Farzeen mentioned, we're going to jump into our networking session right now. And before we do so, I just wanted to go over a couple of quick tips for you all. So if you're on Attendify, this should be the view you see now. You'll see different tabs on the left side that you can use for networking. You can find booths for the PNP team, the handshake icon, and startups, the present icon, and partners, flag icon in those tabs. Within each tab, you can find different booths for each startup and partners, as you can see from the example here. Within each booth, you can find information about the company as well as a contact person you can potentially network with in the Meet Now section. And so you're able to have one-on-one video chats if the contact has their Meet Now feature on and if they aren't in another chat. If you are a partner or a startup and are linked into your booth, you will have the Meet Now feature that you can turn on at the top right of your profile. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to anyone at Plug and Play or anyone at the help desk, which can be found at the top of the Startup Booths tab. This is a new platform for everyone, so don't worry, we'll get through this together, and you can we'll get you the best virtual networking experience as possible. If you're on Zoom, we'll be sending the links in the chat to get over to Attendify. Register first through the first link, and then please join us through the second link. So that was a truckload of information for y'all. So please be sure to visit the help desk if you're lost. Thank you and happy networking.